Hi, this is Bruce Rawles, and I'm speaking with Ray Wells, who is a longtime student and teacher of A Course in Miracles. And he's also the author of a wonderful new book, which is A Course in Miracles Clarified. The subtitle is A Quick and Easy Guide. And I just finished reading it, and it is very wonderful. So thank you, Ray, for not only sending me a copy, but also for just putting it out there and for sharing the insights, which I think are excellent. So Ray was also a participant and a teacher at Rocky Mountain Miracles Center for several years in Denver, Colorado. And I know you've had an extensive background, so maybe you could just start out by telling us how you heard about the course.
How you heard about the course?
Well, first of all, I was looking for something. I didn't know what it was. My wife and I were both second marriage for both in 1965, and for the next 20 years, we were looking at various religions, various organizations, philosophies, all the traditional Christian churches and the Far Eastern churches, and then some of the way out philosophies like Est and Eckankar. And finally, we ended up in Beaverton, Oregon in 1965. We joined a New Age church called Living Enrichment Center. And we were looking in the bookstore there, and we saw this book, this purple book with the title, A Course in Miracles. And I thought to myself, that's kind of a trite title, which was the worst thing I could have thought about it now that I look back on it. And then when we went to the various preachings from the pulpit there in that group, they did quote a lot from there. So Margie and I looked at each other and said, we better get that book and start reading it. And we did. And we got through the first 100 pages and we were just lost. And we were waiting for coffee at the center and discussing that between ourselves. And the person in front of us said, you know, it'd be best if you stop reading the text and just go to the workbook, do all the lessons, then go back and read the text, which is what we did. And then it started to make perfect sense.
Sounds somewhat familiar. I've heard a lot of similar stories over the years. Yeah, the workbook really does give a kind of a quick hands-on introduction to the course, doesn't it? Yep. So you studied the course since the early days, apparently. So yeah.
Since 1985, so we've got about 35 years behind us.
Yeah. I think I actually finally picked up the course about the same time. As far as it was in my mom's library of metaphysical books for many years, and I knew it was there. And I finally said, oh well, some other friends when I moved to the Northern California foothills were telling me about it. So I kind of similar story there. So yeah. So when did you first start teaching the course? Was it at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center or before that?
Yeah, it was I've facilitated several study groups. Margie and I moved around a lot since 1985, and I was a facilitator for several study groups. It wasn't until I got to Rocky Mountain Miracle Center and Ron Grow asked me if I'd like to start teaching, and I agreed, and I gave him a resume and the board approved it. So then I started there, and that would have been about 2014.
Nice. And if you were to sum up the course in just a few words, what would those words be? Your elevator speech, so to speak, or your quick summary of the course. What would that summary be?
Well,
not an easy question, of course.
Yeah, you're asking me to summarize 1,249 pages quickly. I'd like to say, if I would say a few words that would describe the course, the best one I heard, and I agree with it, came from Ken Wapnick, one of the editors of the course, and it was simply be kind. And there's a reason behind that. One of the key things that the course works on is guilt. And you don't want to accumulate any more guilt, and you want to get rid of the guilt you have. So when you're being kind, at the very least, you're not accumulating any more guilt. The other key word is forgive. And the Course shows us a very specific way of forgiving. Most people don't know how to do it. You need the Course to find out, but you can use forgiveness to get rid of the guilt from your past. And once you get rid of that guilt, then you're not getting any more guilt. And they're telling us that's a quick trip to heaven at that time. And but it takes a while to do this, so it's anything but a quick trip. The other way summary would be in the introduction of the Course, they say the Course itself says it can be summarized by nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Well, that's very interesting, because if nothing real can be threatened, you take a look around this world we're living in, holy smoke, it's threatened all the time. So the Course is really saying, this isn't real. And you really get into that once you get into the Course. And the other part of it is, nothing unreal exists. My gosh, that must be what the world is, unreal. Well, I'd like to find out more about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it.
Great summaries, great summaries. Yeah, I wholeheartedly endorse both of those summaries. Yeah, and also on the, I was just noticing the subtitle of A Course in Miracles Clarified is a quick and easy guide. So I think people who've studied the Course for a few years, some of them might take issue with the quick part, and some even the easy part. And I've also heard, some say that it's simple but not easy. And what's your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. When I meant by quick, I mean relatively speaking, it's quick. Seriously, when we started in the Course in 1985, it was the next 15 years at least before we really understood it. We thought we did. And it wasn't until I retired that I really got with it. And I thought, holy smoke, I missed the whole point here. And then I started really studying it. And that's, I would say that somebody who has read my book and then they get into the Course will understand it well enough that trip could take as little as 3 years.
Well, yeah, it does seem like it's a lifelong process, but I think we can certainly make huge strides in a short period of time once we get the big, the bigger picture. Huh? And you mentioned Kevin Wapnick, who's also my favorite Course teacher. Not that the Course suggests favorites as specialness objects, but I think some of his teachings suggest that it does take a while, and I also found that by listening to and reading and watching the videos and listening to the audios of his work over the years, that as you were sharing, that you and your wife, we're kind of off on a side side trip with the Course. I could certainly relate to that. I picked up the books, read them, cover to cover, back in the early, mid 80s, I guess it was, and I realized that there was a whole lot in there that I missed. And I think for a number of people, Gary Renard's works have been the cliche sort of a can opener. So, and that was the case for me, as I picked up Gary's first book in 2007 and realized, oh, I'd missed a lot in there. And I think what you were, alluding to is that, it really does take a number of years to really let it sink in and to practice and keep applying it until those guilt thoughts seem less attractive, shall we say? Huh? Yeah.
Well, it is a simple Course, and the quick summary that I gave really does summarize the Course once you understand it. Oh, that's it. But the thing is, it's like learning how to swim or learning how to play the piano or any other musical instrument. Learning how to swim, how do you do it? Oh, it's easy. You kick your feet and you move your arms. How do you play a piano? Well, you just press the keys. And same way with another musical instrument. But knowing that, can you do it? No way. You take years of study and practice to make it happen. And that's the way the course is. You can understand it thoroughly, and that's a trick in itself. But once you do, being able to do something as simple as forgive, you find out it's really not that simple. How do you let go of a grievance? And the course is about this, and it takes 1,249 pages to really make that real for you.
Mm-hmm. Really does, really does. So what possessed you to write a book about the course?
Well, as I just explained, it is difficult. The course itself is written, it's the length of it. By the time you get to the end of it, you've forgotten what you read in the beginning of it. And and the other part of it is, some of it is like reading a Shakespearean play. It's poetic, but it's a language that's a little bit foreign to us, and it's hard to follow. And the other thing is that the concepts in there that you read about, when the course says this world you're living in fact, the entire universe is just an illusion, that isn't something you're just going to accept right off the bat just because the course says so. Mm-hmm. And one thing my course does is it supplies scientific evidence that really points to the fact that this is an illusion. The other thing that the course that does is, my background is, I'm an electrical engineer, BSEE, and during my career, okay,
we're kindred souls, yes.
That is not an easy course to learn, and it takes a lot of study, and you learn how to research, and you learn how to understand books, and so I used that background in going through the course. And you asked me what possessed me to do it. I wanted to make it easier for somebody else, and the thing of it is, Margie just waved at me, and I lost my train of thought here.
Look up.
Okay, I approached it like an engineering problem. I set up an Excel spreadsheet, and I started writing down all the things that made sense to me in that sheet in the same place. Everything on forgiveness went one place, everything on guilt went another place, and so on and so on and so on. Nice. And then when I finally got the bug to write the book, I went back to all of that. And I took all the groupings, and I said, what's the major theme here? And I named it. And I came up with roughly 20 of them. And that's what I used for titles of the chapters in my books, with those quotes grouped underneath that chapter title and the location, chapter, section, paragraph, and all. And I did want to put the sentence number in there, but I was advised not to because the people need to see it in context. And I said, sure. And so that it's all there, and they've been proofed in its exact place. You want to look up a quote in my book there, you turn to the course itself, look it up, and there it is, just like I have it printed there. So it's all the work is done for the person that reads that.
Yeah, that's really helpful to have the annotation. I'm an advocate of that myself because if having worked on the website for the Foundation for Inner Peace, knowing that people are using digital versions and up to 27 different languages, where the pages aren't the same between digital and print editions, nor different languages as well. So having what you've done in your book is great because it gives the chapter and the section references and so forth.
Yes,
so
page numbers aren't very good.
Well, they're good for specific English editions, right? Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, thank you for doing that. So there's about 1,000 books, give or take on about the course. What differentiates what you've done and makes it unique?
Well, from what I've been able to discover, looking at all these books, almost every one of them is just about a few principles of the course, and they're using it to try to sell some idea. Like how to lose weight, or how to succeed in business, or how to improve the world some way. And the course is really not aimed at doing that sort of a thing. It's aimed at learning how to forgive and learning how to accept what you're, an alternate reality. And so it's not aimed at anything in this world. Now, the upside of that is once you get the course, once you start living it and applying it, things go smoother in your life. Things do happen for you in your life, but it's a spin-off. It's not a goal.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. A happy byproduct of
Yes.
yeah, a mind that doesn't make big deals out of stuff. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So there's a number of different versions of the course. Do you have one that's which one is your book is based on? Yeah.
Well, mine is, of course, the course that is published by the Foundation for Inner Peace. And they're the first ones that published it. And the version that they're publishing is the one that Ken Wapnick sat down with Helen, and the two of them were in contact with the source, the one that dictated it. And they ran every sentence in there by him. And he either said, yes, that's exactly what I said, or no, and here's the correction. And by the time they got through the whole thing, they had it exactly as it was dictated. So that's what he wanted the students to hear. And these people that are coming up with all these other versions, they're academically interesting, but not helpful, I don't think.
Well, yeah, it's I kind of having written a couple of books myself, kind of liken it to if your rough draft gets published, that may or may not be what you wanted to have out there, kind of thing. So, but it still can be useful. It's just not the intended product by the author. Yeah. So, yeah, that's helpful. What can you tell your potential readers about your book and why they would want to read it?
Okay, well, some of it I mentioned already. What I didn't really say is my book is actually a condensed version of the course. You have the whole course there once you've read that book. And it also identifies all the pertinent quotes with chapter, section, and paragraph so that you can look them up quickly. And so you've got it all there in a condensed version, and you have what I call excellent explanations of the difficult parts that are hard to understand. So with my explanations and the condensation, you have a very good understanding of the course when you get through it. Now, I do mention several times in the course, and I want to emphasize that just that alone is not going to make you a master of the course. You really have to get into the bigger book and read and then master all 1,249 pages, the lessons, and the included along with the text and the manual for teachers, because there's so much more in there. It's a duplication of what I've said, but it's duplicated in a way that gives you an understanding that you wouldn't have otherwise. So you do need the entire course. You can't just stop with my book. My book just gives you a running start.
Yeah, very, very helpful. And yeah, I completely agree that, the course itself, there's really not anything I found that can substitute for it. And a lot of things are helpful to provide a context, as your book certainly does. What else would you want to say about the course and religion? And the course basically defines itself as not being a religion. And so how would you differentiate the course from other religions?
Okay. Religions, if you think about them, are all about behavior. They tell you what to wear. Some of them do. Some of them tell you have to wear a specific holy garment. Others tell you you can't smoke, you can't drink. Others say that dancing is not really something that holy people do. So it's all about behavior. And the course is not a book on behavior. It's a book on how to think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the key in the course is, if you want to see something change in your life, you don't do it physically. You change your mind. And as the mind changes, so does the illusion of the world.
Exactly. Very true. Very true. And another question that we thought we'd talk about is reincarnation. And um, you mentioned in your book a few times. And what are your thoughts about reincarnation?
Okay.
In the context of the course.
One of the groups that Margie and I investigated before we even came upon the course is the readings of Edgar Cayce. And Edgar Cayce is a famous medical psychic. He gave 7,500 readings on people who the doctors had given up on, and then diagnosed them, and then ones that followed his recommended cures all got better. And then after that, he got into, I won't give the background, I've got to make this so it's not so long, but he got into giving what he called life readings for people, going back into past lives that they had, solving the problems that they were having now by straightening out their thoughts in a past life. And his descriptions of the past lives and the civilizations and everything, it's hard not to believe it. And once you understand that as an entity, you have been in this world illusion, this universe, since the Big Bang. So that's roughly 13 billion years ago, maybe 14 now. And you have to ask yourself, what do you think you've been doing all that time until this lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
And so many people have been hypnotized and recalled past lives in details that wouldn't be available in any other way. And once you get into the course, that background makes the course a whole lot easier to accept, especially when they say, once you've changed your mind, you could reduce the time to go through this by 10,000 years. Maybe they just were talking about that many lifetimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you're sharing that, I was thinking, about one of my favorite books, which is, well, all of them, Gary Renard's are favorites, but his most recent one, The Lifetimes When Jesus and Buddha Knew Each Other, History of Mighty Companions, where he goes into half a dozen lifetimes that, according to his guides, Arden and Persa, who recount the lifetimes when Jesus and Buddha and Mary Magdalene all intertwined in cross paths in these half dozen lifetimes, and through their process of waking up to the pure non-dual reality that A Course in Miracles puts forth. And I found that fascinating, and also very helpful. Not to dwell on the specifics of those lifetimes, but really the process that they were going through of adhering more and more to the practice of forgiveness, questioning ego's interpretations about everything, and using each lifetime as a way to listen more closely to what the Course calls the Holy Spirit, and to really completely align ultimately with that identity and that guidance. Anyway, so I would certainly also recommend Gary's fourth book to people who have an interest in reincarnation, and specifically those historical figures that have impacted our world
Yeah, I totally
greatly.
agree. And I have been to MRG, also several of Gary's seminars. And one time we went to Virginia Beach, which is the Edgar Cayce's Association of Research and Enlightenment. And the speakers there were Gary Renard, Ken Wapnick, and Charles Thomas Casey.
Oh, wow.
Gary, of course, representing his view of the Course, and Ken's his view, and Charles Thomas Casey trying to see how the readings that Edgar Cayce gave fit into all of this.
Interesting.
We even have a picture of Margie standing between Ken and Charles Thomas.
Oh, nice.
But I'd like to say one thing about this reincarnation, and that is kissing cousins to reincarnation is the word karma. And karma is the description of what you've done to somebody else in a previous lifetime, so will it be done to you in the next lifetime or even in the same lifetime. And to me, karma is just another word for guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's bad karma. Now, what about good karma? I think that's synonymous with forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That pretty pretty helpful connections there, for indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Because when we forgive, we're, according to the Course, just letting go of what never happened. If we're doing it with the true forgiveness that the Course talks about, huh? Yeah, and then you point that out in your book very nicely. Is this, we forgive what didn't happen, rather than what we thought happened. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, I maybe you could talk a little bit about how other ways the Course has helped you over the years.
Okay. One of the first things that happened is my father. My background is I'm an only child. I was adopted. I had a very strict father, and he was raised by his mother. He didn't have a father, so he had to learn a lot about being a father, and I was his sounding board, so to speak. He was a severe disciplinist. And once I got away from him and I was in my 20s and even 30s, there was a hatred there and a resentment that wasn't doing me any good. And once I read the Course, I said to myself, I got to forgive him. Mm-hmm. And so I prayed about it. I talked to the Holy Spirit about it, and I really did forgive him. And the interesting thing is, just about the time that I came to this conclusion, I had been struggling with an arthritic knee, had water on the knee, and they gave me steroids, and it wasn't getting any better. And when I finally realized that he was forgiven, a few weeks later, I realized the knee's better. And that's kind of the way it works. Now, a thing that happened to him, because I talked to him about the Course, Margie and I both did, and he was starting to get it. He, at that point in time, was married to my stepmother, and she had had a stroke, and it put her in a nursing home, and she'd been there about 3 months, and the doctors told her, he asked him, much longer has she got? Because she doesn't even recognize me anymore. And the doctor says, well, 3 months is about it. Well, 6 months went by, and he said, Ray, I don't understand it. Is she still hanging on? And I said, Dad, do you have any forgiveness issues with her? And he says, oh my word, yes. He says, I was her caregiver, and she was so mean, bitchy, and verbally abusive to me. And I said, well, can you forgive her? He says, no way. No, I can't forgive her. Another 6 months went by. She's still alive. And he said, what's going on? And I said, Dad, can you forgive her? He rolled his eyes back. He was quiet for about 5 minutes, and then he looked at me and he said, I just did. She died that night, and I'm not kidding you.
Wow. Pretty powerful story.
And
yeah.
The obvious conclusion was she was waiting around for his forgiveness.
Wow. Quite a story. Yeah. Makes you realize, how important it is to really, let everyone go, right? To be who they really are and what they really are. Huh? Yeah.
Well, the beauty of the Course is, and this is in chapter 12 of my book, is once you really get the Course, you find out you're in complete control of your life. You can't blame anybody else. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of that is, not only are you your worst enemy, but you're also your best guide. And you can pull yourself out of this because you've got the power to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you're saying that, I was thinking the appointed friend section in the Course it comes to mind, and it does seem like that, if we do what's outlined in your book and also in the Course, of course, we gradually let go of our identification with the insane thought system of the ego that wants things to be different in the world and is upset because of it, to recognizing that there's really, as your book illustrates really nicely, that there's really nothing in the world that we need to be a victim of. I just flipped over to chapter 12. Are you a victim? Are you a victim of uncontrollable random events, or is your will defined by you? The Course tells us that we can be in complete control of what seems to happen to us in the dream. We can be the dreamer of the dream, or its subject, and thus subjects to its mistakes. But we cannot be both dreamer and a figure in our dream at the same time. We have to be one or the other. So anyway, yeah, very, very helpful, because it does seem like, when we're more mindless, we think we're at the mercy of the world instead of capable of being merciful to the world, huh?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the part that got me in the Course, when it started talking about you can't be a figure in somebody else's dream.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the dreamer of the dream. If somebody else is the dreamer of the dream that you're in, you have no control.
Mm-hmm.
You're at their mercy.
Exactly. Yeah. And your book does a really good job of pointing that out in a lot of different ways and from a number of different angles. So before, I was thinking maybe it'd be helpful to just read the chapter titles, because they each one of those could be a whole conversation in itself, but maybe you might have some things that you might want to share about some of those particular chapters and what's in them. I found it all very compelling, well organized, and a good summary of some of the vital ideas in the Course that might otherwise be overlooked. So I'll just read some of the chapter titles if that's okay with you.
Sure.
The chapter 1 begins with the Course is not another version of Christianity. And then the next one is the Course is not New Age. Start seeing the world as it really is. How science and the Course agree on the nature of reality. I can relate to that, having grown up in a town with cyclotrons, and my dad was a supervisor on those, so I kind of got the physics by osmosis. What is mind and how does it affect your body? You are dreaming all the time. What is a miracle? God does not interfere in this world. Well, that's such a potent one right there, idea right there, isn't it? Holy Spirit, ego, and the split mind. You are ultimately alone in the dream. Forgiveness will solve all your problems. Are you a victim? We just read a little from that. How different is the world from heaven? God does not want you to suffer. The unholy trinity of sin, guilt, and fear. Who is Jesus? Why did the Son of God think he left God? A quick summary of the Course and its purpose. Level 1 and Level 2. And the Course in Miracles is not about making the world better. How to wake up from the dream, and what can I gain from the Course? So do you want to talk about the last one maybe, and so, what makes it attractive? What's the sales pitch for the Course, if you had to summarize that again? I mean, you kind of already did at the beginning, but maybe from a different angle.
The sales pitch is everybody. I think I haven't talked to anybody that doesn't think this world is tough to live in. Mm-hmm. The events that happen to you are hard to take. You end up being hurt, have hurt feelings, losing relationships. You work hard during your life, getting an education, learning how to live in this world, learning to trade and accumulating wealth and possessions and a family. And in the end, everybody dies. Your body withers away. You have nothing left of what you accumulated, and you leave it all behind. And my question is, what is the point of all of that? Mm-hmm. And when you find out that's just an illusion, it's not your true reality, and you have an eternal life in heaven, that's a big relief. Mm-hmm. And another big relief in the Course is most people are afraid of going to hell. And when you find out from the Course there's no physical place called hell, you're living in one right now. It's called the world, but it's just an illusion. It's not real. Mm-hmm. And when I found out I wasn't going to go to hell, that was a big relief.
Yeah, I think that, and combined with the idea that the Creator, the perfect oneness that we try to put labels on and realize it's an ineffable presence. That essence that we tend to call God, if for lack of a better word, didn't have anything to do with space and time and individuality. And having studied, Ken Wapnick's material and Gary Renard's work, among others, for years, it's like, and plus the course itself, over and over, it's like starting to sink in. It's like, well, if that awareness really is independent of all of our dreams of space and time and individuality and stuff, then that really is where there's a lot of hope, isn't there? I mean, because as you were talking about, the mortality of the physical selves that we think we are, I'm thinking about the real alternative section in the last chapter of the text, and where it talks about perhaps you'd like to try all the different pathways of the world, and then at some point you realize, well, you don't have to exhaustively try every single one to realize that there must be another way. There must be, as Helen and Bill ask each other, there must be another way of looking at the world that makes sense out of the absurdity of a purely mortal physical existence. And I think you recount it very nicely in your book, is that there's got to be more to it, and that the Course really does provide in numerous ways, and you give excellent shortcuts and sort of cliff notes summaries of a lot of the ideas that are important in the Course that help us get back to the practice of those ways to see the world differently. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
would you like to share a few favorite thoughts that you put a lot in this book, and they're all really helpful ideas. Maybe there's some that stand out for you that as you were compiling your list on your spreadsheet of ideas.
Well, while I'm thinking about that, I got something close to that. One of the things in the Course that was so comforting to me is the description of God. Mm-hmm. First of all, you find out that God is not an anthropomorphic God. He's never had a human body. He's never been human. He's never been in the world. The world was created made as a place where he couldn't come. And you find that we're trying to get away from him. That's why we're here. But when you find out his attitude towards us, we are his child. He loves us. He doesn't want us to suffer. He doesn't judge us. He's not jealous of us. He doesn't punish us. He's kind, and you don't need to fear him. And to find out that that's what God really is all about, yeah, it sure beats any description I heard before. I'll buy that one.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. In fact, as you're sharing that, I was thinking about one of the Christian Bible is sort of a mixed bag in my mind, and I began as an adolescent to question the schizophrenic nature of God, especially the Old Testament descriptions where that God would wax hot and cold at different times, and one day be merciful and the next day be wrathful and vengeful. And it's like, that didn't make any sense to me. It's like, how could that have any consistency? And certainly a fearful an image at best, right? And so the idea of an all-loving, all-encompassing creator that recognized only innocence, really, to me, when I stumbled across the Course and when it found me, I guess, but like it did with so many of us, that suddenly resonated with me. And I was thinking of one of the places in the Christian Bible that didn't seem like it was distorted or twisted too much was the prodigal son story. It's like, from what I recall from that, it's been a few years, is that the prodigal son returns home and discovers that the father's not upset at all. It's like, well, let's have a party. Let's celebrate that that an aspect of that the big family has returned. And I think that's the joyous anticipation that we can all look forward to when we wake up from the dream, can't we? I mean, and I think you put that in your book very nicely, is that we really you talk in the innocent perception, On page 76 in your book, you quoted from chapter 3 about the judgment and the authority problem. You have no idea the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brother totally without judgment. And that quote there that you put in your book, I think relates to so much of what the Course is about, isn't it? And how forgiveness is really vital to that process. Yeah.
And I can say, I told what my relationship was with my father and what I went through to forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed, I cried. I mean, I really cried. I missed him because I had found to love him. What happened in my childhood, I realized I did that to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
He literally, what you do when somebody comes at you, they're coming at you because they're answering your cry from your guilt, saying, I need to be punished. That's what the Course says. It's a hard concept, but when you read the Course, and years later, maybe you'll finally get it, but it's really literally true.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is such a release.
It really is. The way you phrase that, I think, is really helpful too, because it seems like it comes at us, and yet at the same time, there's that part of us, part of the awareness in our mind that realizes that on some level, as begrudging as it is to admit sometimes, that the feedback that comes at us is really coming from us. And as an engineer, the idea of feedback is one where we think the signal is coming to us, but if it's coming from us, and then what comes back is just a feedback mechanism, then it's like, oh, that's right, it's my mind, and it's my unconscious, unfounded guilt that I need to look at, and has nothing to do with what the other person says or does it? So anyway, yeah, really helpful.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And in this dream that we're all having, one of the key concepts of the Course, and this is one that people have a hard time grasping, is that there's just one entity here. And that entity is called the Son of God. And that entity is having a dream of this world. The dream is an illusion. It's not real. But as long as he's dreaming it, and I say he because there's no gender there, but that's what the Course calls him. As long as he's dreaming this world, then it seems real to us. But the thing is, like your dreams at night, when you dream, and there's lots of people in your dream, people that you know and you relate to during the daytime, you think they're people who came to be in your dream. Not true. That's just your mind pretending to be those people in your dream. Now you apply that analogy, and it's more than an analogy, it's a truism to this world. Every entity in this world is an entity of the Son of God, meaning they're in the mind of the Son of God. They're not just your brother, they're you.
that is a very powerful and challenging idea, isn't it? Yeah. I think
when you see them, they're your mirror. Yeah. They're reflecting what you want them to show you. That's it. Again, you got to have the Course in you before this becomes reality for you. But that's some of the challenges you're going to face.
Exactly. Yeah. Well put. Yeah, because it really is, coming from us, and we're seeing ourselves, aren't we? Even though it seems like we've fragmented that one identity into all these gazillion pieces, and but Humpty Dumpty never fell off the wall, huh?
Right. There's a quote in the Course: "The world you see is the world you want to see."
Yes.
And that's sobering.
Yeah, it is. It's sobering and simultaneously refreshing, in that because it's the world that I want to see and you want to see, that means the decision-making faculty is in each seeming individual mind, and we just need to train our minds to get back to that place where we forgive unconditionally at some point, and then if we keep practicing that forgiveness, then we recognize that if there's nothing out there to forgive, and we've let go of the unconscious grievances, because we see that they're not founded in truth and in eternity, then we're actually more peaceful, huh?
That's true.
which is a worthy goal in itself. Just in fact, if that's really all we achieve in the lifetime, that's not a bad accomplishment.
It's the best lifetime you'll ever live. And the last time.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Well, otherwise, why would you want to hang around, right? Yeah.
Yeah. To me, contemplating another reincarnation, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
I don't want to come back.
Well, I've kind of got to the point where I'm not too concerned about that. I just figure if I need to come back to forgive some more, I at least have gotten some momentum going in this lifetime, having studied the Course for a few decades. And it's like, okay, now I kind of get the practice, and I'm starting to slowly but surely go from a merely intellectual grasp to a little bit more application, and and a little more frequently. I have my wife here to help remind me when I'm acting out and still entertaining grievances, and she's really helpful. And but the rest of the world too. Everything becomes, like you say, a mirror, and it's an opportunity to see that I could see peace instead of this, and I'm not upset for the reason I think.
And as you say, another lifetime is another chance. There's an infinite amount of another chance out there.
Yeah.
If you want to take it.
Exactly. But like you say, why not do it in this one if we can, right? Yeah. Anyway, great stuff. Really, really excellent point. I highly recommend your book, Ray, A Course in Miracles Clarified, and a quick and easy guide, especially for people who've been through the Course a few times. I think some people who are new to the Course could certainly do well to pick it up, but I would think they would want to immediately dive into the Course so that the context of what you have shared in the book makes sense for them. So, yeah. Anyway,
Ron Grohl described it as a good companion for the Course.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, and so it's definitely a valuable complement and addition to the global literature about A Course in Miracles. Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up the conversation?
Well, no, I think we've pretty covered it.
Okay. Well, I'll put a link to your book on the website when I post this, and send you the links and so forth. And anyway, thanks again, Ray, for taking the time to talk about your book with me. And again, it's a wonderful read, and I think a really good companion and adjunct for any serious student of the Course. So.
Well, thank you, Bruce, and thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.